Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician, and this is Holomancer.
And of course, I am the daring reporter Dora.
We are very glad to see you all again.
Today we meet to determine the most influential sets in standard mode.
We will help you find the packs with the best cards, and also try to take stock of the year and determine the most popular set in the meta game. In addition, we will give you recommendations for the proper investment of resources before the annual rotation. As you all know, almost every week we process the results of different meta reports. Based on these data, we have compiled our list.
So which sets have impacted the game the most?
Let's talk about each set in more detail. As is tradition, we will start with the worst set.
In 9th place is Rasta's Rumble. It's the least impactful set of cards we've ever seen. The use of these cards in the meta game has fallen since the first month of the expansion's release, from 10 to 2.5% after Galakrond Awakening release.
The life cycle of Rasta's Rumble in standard mode is only 16 months.
We believed that the set would receive support in each subsequent expansion or that the developers would buff some of the cards, but this never happened. Fortunately, in April, this useless set will become unavailable in standard.
Currently only 35 out of 135 Rasta cards are used by players, only 26% of the cards. You can also see the number of cards distributed by rarity on the screen. The indicator on epic and legendary cards shows the number of cards that have more than 1% popularity. 8 legendary cards can be seen in the metagame, but only Wardruid Loti and Halazi, the links, have more than 1% popularity. As you can see, epic cards are not used in the metagame at all.
The 8th place is occupied by the Witchwood. This expansion was released in April 2018, and unfortunately fell out of the meta relatively quickly.
The vast majority of Witchwood cards have never had an impact on the game. At the same time, cards that were supported by odd and even mechanics had very toxic effects on the entire metagame. Subsequently, the developers prematurely moved all of these cards into the Hall of Fame.
After the Kahn and Baku rotation, Shutterwalk became the most odious card in the set. Sometimes it seemed that this one card had much more influence than the set as a whole.
After the release of this set, its cards occupied only 15% in the meta. The cards were used less and less with each new nerf and set. Now only 3% of the cards in popular decks come from this set. This means that a 30 card deck contains only one Witchwood card.
Next in line is Galakrond Awakening. This set of 35 cards has a bit more of an impact on the game than the 2 previous fully fledged expansions. The cards from the new adventure weren't as bad as many players expected. At the same time, the new cards are not as popular as cards from adventures of the past. In general, this set complements the Descent of Dragons. Currently 22 out of the 35 cards are used by players, which is 63% of the cards.
In our last video, we talked about the best standard and world decks. According to our data, most decks do not use new cards from Galakrond Awakening at all. The high popularity of Embergene Druid and Dragon Hunter is the main reason why this set is in 7th place, and not at the very end of the list.
Should I buy the Galakrond Awakening adventure?
That's a very difficult question. On the one hand, Blizzard somewhat forces you to do this. On the other hand, you can save your gold and spend some dust to create more necessary cards. This may be a more effective strategy. But don't forget that after the rotation, the significance of this set could significantly increase, or vice versa, decline. Some players mistakenly consider the purchase of Galakrond Awakening, even with weak cards, is a good offer because the cards can be ground to dust in a year. This will result in 2,800 gold, which is almost 3,000 dust. Thus, you will lose almost 60% of the profit.
Based on this, if you are a free-to-play player that still hasn't bought an adventure and feels comfortable with the lack of new cards, we would recommend you save the gold and make a decision after the rotation.
The 6th position is held by my favorite expansion, Rise of Shadows. With the release of this set, a new Hearthstone story began. This is truly the most fun expansion, and was very positively received by the players. For the first time in the history of the game, all 23 legendary cards were used in meta decks with varying popularity, of course. Over the 4 months after the release, more than 70% of the cards were used in competitive play, although not all of them were effective. It was definitely a breath of fresh air after the monotonous dominance of even and odd strategies.
Unfortunately, with the release of each new expansion of the year, the set lost a significant amount of popularity. After the release of Galakrond Awakening, its popularity is only 7.5%.
To date, only 9 of the 23 legendary cards are used in the metagame, with varying popularity. Unfortunately, most of the legendary cards are now useless in standard mode.
The popularity of all legendary cards is only 9%. This means that only every 11th legendary card in the metagame is a card from Rise of Shadows. The most popular of them is Heistbar and Togwaggle.
In general, this is a very good set, but spending your resources on it is not a rational decision, since there are packs that will bring you more benefits.
It's time to talk about basic cards. This is the most stable set that makes up the foundation of each class. Despite this, the effectiveness of free cards is slightly reduced with the release of each new expansion. Basic cards traditionally gain popularity when a rotation occurs. It's also worth noting that the set is slowly losing influence with each new year.
The popularity of the set now is only almost 9%. This is the new lowest result we have ever monitored.
Next in line is my favorite set from the Year of the Raven, Boomsday. According to our data, this is the most anticipated set among the community. The set had a very high level of pre-orders, and met the community's expectations when released.
The dynamics of the popularity of the cards from this set was quite unpredictable. Immediately after its release, the influence of the cards steadily decreased. Only after rotation, 8 months after its release, the set began to gradually gain popularity. After that, a lot of cards received buffs, and the set immediately became the best in the game. It is natural that Boomsday lost some of its influence after the release of Descent of Dragons and Galakrond Awakening, but the decline in card popularity was not very significant. The overall popularity of the legendary cards in this set is 27%. In other words, every fourth legendary card in the meta game is from Boomsday. The most popular card, as always, is Zilliax. Half of all meta decks use this card. And do not forget about Whizbang, the most unique legendary card in the history of the game.
The main disadvantage of the set is its extremely small number of useful epic cards. This set will leave standard mode very soon.
Boomsday, we will miss you.
Saviors of Uldum makes the top 3. Unfortunately, over the past few months, the influence of the set has halved. Many of the cards are still relevant. In fact, most of the legendary cards in the set are used in the game, but their overall popularity and influence is not so significant.
This set is good as of now, but it is very difficult to make predictions about its impact in the future.
In second place by influence is the Classic set. These cards were released along with the game in March of 2014.
Classic still remains a very important component of the game, and at the same time, the most controversial set. Typically over the course of a year the Classic set gradually loses popularity with each new expansion. After rotation, it always regains its influence. We expect that the next rotation will not be an exception.
But despite such a consistently high level of popularity, the Classic set does not deserve your resources. If you don't fully understand the flaws of the Classic set, check out our video about it.
And finally, in first place is Descent of Dragons. This is probably the most influential set in the history of the game.
The release of Galakrond Awakening not only did not weaken this set, but on the contrary even slightly increased its influence.
Every third card in the metagame is a card from Descent of Dragons. Currently more than 70% of this set's cards are involved in competitive play. This is a record high indicator, especially for a period when the game has the maximum possible number of cards.
Moreover, this set has the highest potential benefit ratio. This means that you will get the maximum profit from the purchase of these packs. Potentially, your first pack will bring you 3 or 4 useful cards out of 5. In general, the first 10 packs will bring you 33 useful cards. After the 50th open pack, you have the opportunity to find about 1 useful card in each subsequent pack. After the 100th pack, you will need to purchase 10 packs to find 1 useful card. Descent of Dragons is definitely the best set to buy for both novice and experienced players.
A year ago, we encouraged you to stop buying packs for gold. We advised you to save resources until a new expansion was released. This year the situation is completely different. You can continue to buy Descent of Dragons packs if you still do not have enough cards.
We expect this set will have a high level of influence after the rotation.
Before we ask the final question, we have a short announcement. The membership function has started working on our channel. If you have the opportunity and desire, you can support our team. Just find the join button. It can be found near the subscribe button.
Finally, here is a new question. How will you spend your resources now?
And how much gold do you have? We created a YouTube poll. Find the I button on the screen and vote.
Please like, subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for being with us.
And special thanks to Chris for text editing.
We will meet in new videos.
Good luck.